I've started this show many, many times by saying small business is hard. Well, it is. It was really hard during COVID, wasn't it? Do you remember that? Do you remember? Do you really remember? Because things get easier over time. We're going to talk a little bit about what it was like to start a business, have it shuttered shut, and to try to keep it up when that's all you've got. That's scary. Requires purpose under pressure. Jessica Cliff is next. The heat is on. Let's get cooking. This is Purpose Under Pressure. It's a podcast about people just like you and me. We're trying to do the right things. We wake up out of the bed and get going on something big, and those pressures come along and try to knock us off. Do they keep us down, or do we get back up? And what path are we following then? That's what this show is all about. It is called Purpose Under Pressure. And if you like it, if you've heard it, if you've seen it, we are in season 7. Give us a like or a follow or subscribe. I like to say tell your mom, tell someone, because that's the way we get this out. It's the way we change things for folks and kind of make a difference episode by episode. This show is brought to you by Sandler by the Ruby Group, serving sales professionals nationwide from their Akron and Columbus, Ohio locations. They're also in Jacksonville, Florida. They provide sales training and business growth opportunities. They're doing it right. They're doing it well. If you've got a sales team, if you rely on revenue and goals and projections and scales, man, you got to do it right, because that's your brand that's out there in your hands of your salespeople. They're the ones telling the stories. They're the one bringing in the right clients. You got to do that on purpose. And that's what Sandler by the Ruby Group is all about. You can check them out online at therubygroup.sandler.com. I'm excited to introduce to you today our guest. It's Jessica Cliff. She's the owner of Brooklyn Kung Fu in Brooklyn, Ohio. And I met her as the owner of Matteo's Italian restaurant in Olmsted Falls. So we're going to talk about both of those things. Bottom line, she's got entrepreneurial genes going on and everything, and got a lot of different businesses going on, which I'm excited to learn about. And so welcome to Purpose Under Pressure, Jessica Cliff.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy that you are. We know each other through the restaurant, and I think that's enough pressure as it is. But we're going to talk about all kinds of different things that kind of keep you going. Tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial endeavors and what's going well, and brag about yourself a little bit, because I think you deserve it. But let's tell everybody what's good.
Sure. Thank you. So for the past 13 years, my husband, Daniel, and I have been immersed in the world of entrepreneurship, balancing 3 unique and demanding endeavors. Daniel and I met while we were in the restaurant industry almost 25 years ago. We loved what we did, and we had a lot of fun doing it. But once we got married and started growing our family, we decided that it was time to get out of the restaurant industry. So he had been training martial arts for about 12 years at the time, and we always had the desire to start our own school. So in 2011, we jumped all in. We both left the industry and we started Brooklyn Kung Fu. We literally started with 0 students, 0 leads. We had no signage, nothing. We had a mentor and a dream and a lot of determination. But now 13 years later, it's a thriving community of almost 200 students, and we have multiple instructors.
What was the impetus? What, if I might ask, what was the impetus to leave what you were doing, which was probably going just fine, but to go all in with nothing? What drove that decision?
I guess the freedom to be able to do our own thing. I know I did not want to be closing down a restaurant bar at 2:30 in the morning, 9 months pregnant. Or breaking up fights when I had a newborn at home. You know what I mean? It was just the freedom of a flexible schedule, of being able to not put our babies in daycare and keeping them with us. And that was the main thing, I think.
I know that really well. There's the point where you've gotten something built and you're all in and you're there, and yet there's nothing on the other side of there. And it's not like you can just go and work at a restaurant somewhere. And it's not like you can just go and you got to start your own thing. And you did that. And so then what happened?
So then 2 years ago, we added Turo into the mix. And if you're not familiar with Turo, it's basically Airbnb for cars. It's a platform of car sharing. Yes.
That's cool.
So we have grown our fleet we started with just 1 SUV. We put it on just to test it out, see how would go, and it got rented out within 2 hours of being on the platform. And since then, we've grown our fleet to 7 cars. So we do have plans by the end of this year to have a 15-car fleet.
And that's, you own those. It's not like you're using
We do.
someone else, that you own those vehicles just to satisfy this entrepreneurial vision.
Yes.
That's cool. So it
Yeah.
must be working. It's paying for itself.
Oh, yeah. It pays for itself and my vacations.
Wow.
That's our vacation fund
Why
business.
haven't I not heard about this before? Am I just that far in the weeds, or?
No, I don't think it's really an untapped market in Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's not a huge market in
So
Cleveland,
you're on
but
the
if you
ground
go
floor.
to like, yes, if you go to bigger cities, Chicago, San Francisco, Miami, they're all over.
Yeah. So when I go to, I'm going to fly down to Atlanta soon. Let's pretend,
Hmm.
instead of standing in line at the car rental place, I can kind of just do an Airbnb for a car and have a vehicle. Is that the way it
Yes,
works?
and what's really nice about
Wow.
Turo is that you go on the platform, and just like Airbnb, you put in all your credentials, like what you want. You can hand pick the car that you're going to get. And I don't know that all hosts do this, but if you were to handpick one of our cars and choose for airport delivery, Daniel and I meet you right outside of baggage claim with your keys.
Is that
So
right?
you get off your plane, you grab
That's
your bags,
cool.
you walk right out, we hand you your keys, you get in and go.
That is
It's
really
very
cool.
convenient.
How in the world are you in on the ground floor of that in a big market like Cleveland? I know it's not the biggest city in the world, but it's not Leroy or something like that.
Right. And it worked out really well because we only live 10 minutes from the
From the
airport.
airport. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So,
So what
yeah,
else are you
thank you.
doing? So that's two.
That's two. And then most recently, back in spring of 2024, we were approached by our friends Craig and now partners, or our friend and now partners, Craig and his partner Desiree, about Matteo's Casual Italian in Olmsted Falls and the owner possibly wanting out. That's
Mm-hmm.
what we heard through the grapevine. So we started our research and our due diligence, and we eventually approached the previous owner with an offer all before it even hit the market. He accepted, and we acquired Matteo's back in November of this past year.
What made you want to get back into the restaurant biz after having tried it once before?
It honestly was not even a thought at the time. It just kind of happened.
It was an opportunity and
Um,
you took it.
yeah, it was an opportunity, and we decided that this was going to be a lot of really good potential.
Yeah.
Um, and it was time. I mean, our kids are a little bit older now, so and it's right there in our own community. It's not like we would have to be driving 40 minutes to be at the restaurant and our kids are at home. I can walk to Mateo's in 10 minutes from my
Yeah.
house. Like, it's
Yeah.
so convenient.
That's cool. That's cool. Are you spending late nights there now like you were before? Not so much?
No,
Okay, good.
no. I mean, the hours, because it's such a small community, like everything in Olmsted Falls closes at 9, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, and we have management. So our manager usually closes for us. So if I'm there, honestly, I don't do much. I just I walk around and I talk to the tables, and I have fun.
Well, you've got a great chef there who's, all of his recipes
Yes.
are still there and doing all those things.
Oh,
Okay, so
yeah.
that this is exactly what this show is all about. Because here's what you've done, Jessica. You've just told me so far that you built a business out of scratch, no problem. There you go, all done, easy peasy. You got in the
Oh,
ground
yeah.
floor of the big thing called Turu that's going to be the next Airbnb, no problem, easy peasy. You jump back into restaurant, it's going great. You don't even have to worry about it, and you're walking to work. It's all fine, easy peasy. Now, see what I mean? That's what this show's all about. People out there sometimes are going, how does Jessica have it so good? When we know that it's a lot harder than that behind the scenes. And so let's talk about pressure. What are some of the things that you've had to overcome, the things that you've struggled with to make sure that you're taking care of your family, you're taking care of your kids, you're taking care of your own dreams, and it all just doesn't blow up in your face? Because we all worry about those things. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, none of it was easy.
See,
None of
you
it
made it
was
sound
easy
like it was.
at all. I know. It was not. So starting Brooklyn Kung Fu from scratch was definitely trial by fire, but nothing could have really prepared us for biggest trial, which was the challenges of COVID-19,
Oh,
like
of
I'm sure
course.
you've heard from
Yeah, we've heard of
all
that.
of your, yeah.
Yep.
So like everyone else, we were forced to shut down for over 3 months. It was incredibly scary. We saw martial arts schools that had been in business like for years and years before us shut their doors forever.
Yeah.
And we were just wondering if we would survive. Are we next? You know what I mean? So, but what really got us through was our support of our community that we had built. So, our church family really rallied around us. They provided financial support, they provided groceries. It was really incredibly generous. Our neighbors at the time were consistently checking on us, making sure we were okay. And our students, many of them continued to support us financially, even though we were closed.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was really an amazing blessing. And in a strange way, that time of closure became sort of a reset for the school. So while our reopening brought some challenges, it also allowed us to cultivate a stronger and more dedicated student body.
How scary did it get?
uh, I went from brunette to gray. Okay. it got very scary. We really were unsure. We took it day by day.
Yeah.
And Daniel ended up driving Uber Eats
Yeah.
because we were just so strapped.
I was
Like we
going to
didn't
say
know
you
what
didn't
to
have
do.
anything else. You didn't have these other
No.
business. That's all you had.
That's
And
all we had at the time.
how
Yeah.
old was your family?
Um
Your kids?
yeah, Danica was in third grade.
Yeah.
So I ended up pulling her from school and homeschooling her during that year of, hybrid
Yeah.
teachings. I was like, I know my daughter, she can't handle that 1 week in, 1 week out of the building. So we homeschooled her, and then our son was 2, I think at the time,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit older.
And were you free and clear? I don't mean to get into your business too much, but was there like a mortgage kind of thing hanging over your head at that time? The thing I'm getting to
Oh
is that
yeah.
we're now like 4 years past it, 3 or 4 years past it, and I feel like it feels easy. Like I'm not a woman, I've never had kids, but I think it's really bad when you're having it and then you realize later, hey, let's do it again. You kind of forget. I'm going to get in trouble for that, but uh, the point being that I think we forget how scared we all were and how hard it was, because here is a true story of a young family all in, and then they're forced to shut their doors with no opportunity. And so when your husband was driving for Uber Eats, was that just to pay the bills? Was it to keep the business open? What was going through your minds as what's the next step if this thing doesn't fix?
Yeah, that was to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Our landlord at the time was also very, very generous to us. And he was in the same situation, but he
Hmm.
is close to retirement. You know what I mean? So he was a little bit better off financially, I think. And him and his partner gave us, I think it was like 2 or 3 free months, did not charge us rent
Wow.
because we weren't able to be in business. And then when we finally did open, they only charged us half for 2 months. So we really had a wonderful community surrounding us during that whole time. But yeah, Daniel driving Uber and, doing these odd jobs was really just to pay our bills and keep our lights on and survive.
You don't hear about a lot of those stories of the community. Did you ask for that special
No,
privilege, or did they come to you and say, "Hey, let's work together"?
they all came to
See, I
us.
think that happened a lot, and I think a lot of people don't know how often that happened. And I think you hear about the few, the evictions or
Mhm.
whatever it takes, and everybody had their own problems going on, but you don't hear about the good that people did. And we all kind of banded together, didn't we? You really saw that.
Yeah. Hmm.
At what point did you realize you were going to make it? How close did you get to where it wasn't going to work? And then you went, wait a minute, I think we're okay.
When um when they finally let us back in the
Yeah.
building and finally let us, raised all of the restrictions to the community, our phones started ringing off the hook.
Did they really?
Yes. And I didn't even have this written down. I wasn't even going to talk about this, but I was in Florida at the time because we were homeschooling. And we had no business open. So
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to go to Florida and homeschool my kids about the ocean or whatever. So we were there. And of course, my role at Brooklyn Kung Fu, I can do it anywhere. I have my laptop, I have the cell phone, I can do whatever I need to do from anywhere. So I was able to work from Florida. But while I was there, and all of these restrictions lifted, our phone started ringing off the hook. And every 5 minutes, I was running to get to my computer and I'm putting new people in the system. And I'm calling Daniel in Ohio saying, you have another intro. They're coming in an hour. You have
There
an
was all
intro of
this
four
pent up
people coming in
demand.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so many people were just anxious to get out and get back
Mm.
to life and get their kids back to exercising or whatever. And yeah, we just blew up.
Blew
It
up.
was, yeah.
Did that experience, how did COVID change you as a business owner? This was the only business you owned then. Now you own three. There's a lot of folks out there right now that are wanting to start their own thing, but they're afraid for whatever reason. You kind of went through fear. How did COVID change you as an entrepreneur? What do you know now that maybe you didn't know then?
Well, I feel like I know it better now than what I didn't know then was that power of community.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had asked me, like, did we go to all these people and ask for help? We didn't. But I think that also goes to how we run our businesses. Like, we focus on service, we focus on being honest and kind, and we don't try to cheat people, we don't try to get over on anybody. And when people see that, they want to get behind something good.
Mhm.
So all of these families and all of these neighbors and our church and other businesses, like our landlord and his business, they wanted to support us because they knew we were good people and we're good business people and we're a good, honest business.
Mhm. And so when the crap hit the fan, they came to you as we're a family here. We're going to take
Yeah.
care of things and do things well. And as you move forward, do you count on that now? Maybe you didn't know it was there, and as you're stepping into these new entrepreneurial opportunities, do you say, "Look, it's going to be okay because we know this works when things get hard"? Is that the way, or is it different?
Looking at the typical salesperson, everything they do day in and day out, if we simplify all of that and really boil it down, they have two superpowers. First superpower that salespeople have is how they behave. Second superpower they have is what they say. As a seller, we only have two problems. We either said something or did something that we should not have said or done, or we didn't say something or do something that we should have said or done.
Do you say, "Look, it's going to be okay because we know this works when things get hard"? Is that the way, or is it different?
Um, in a way it is. I mean, there's always a lot of work that needs to get done, but having faith, I don't know if you're a Christian man
Oh
or
yeah,
whatnot, but having
yeah.
that faith, you just know what happens is meant to happen for whatever reason it happens. We may not like it, or it may be good, but whatever happens, there's a reason. And that reason in the long run is always going to make sense. It may not make so much sense now, like what we wanted, or it's not happening how we wanted it to happen, but in the long run, it's going to make sense.
Yeah.
So I do feel like having that community support and building our communities, like building the community, is what's huge, especially with Matteo's being our newest adventure. Just getting out in the community, getting people to know us, if something like COVID-19 were to happen again, I'm confident that we would have people rallying around our business and around us.
Yeah. And I think that's got to feel good knowing that you've been through maybe the worst. Like there's not, I mean, you were shut down. Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I know. That's why I say maybe. That's why I don't have any wood to knock on around here, but it's the worst that we've ever seen. And so
Mhm.
to anticipate something worse is hard to see, hard to understand. So that was really
Yeah.
tough. And so the fact that you're able to get through it, I feel like it has to give you some strength, kind of moving forward to make those decisions. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about work-life balance, if it's okay, because you are
Sure.
a young family, and you're doing things right, and you're trying to keep time for yourself, and you talk about your husband quite a bit, all those things that we all go through. And yet, and I don't know anything about this, you guys are like Olympic level, or like you're doing things on your own
Well,
as well. Is that right?
yeah. Yes. So we're both part of Team USA for Shuaijiao. That's the style of Kung Fu that we teach, that we've been training for 25 years. Unfortunately, Shuaijiao is not in the Olympics.
Okay.
I wish it were, but judo is. It's very similar to judo. So
Okay.
if you're familiar with judo, a lot of throws and takedowns.
Okay.
So Daniel, well, we were both recently invited onto Team USA this past October to travel to the World Championship tournament in China.
Yeah.
I opted to not join the team this past year because I didn't want to travel to China without my kids, like having both of their parents go the other side of the world and leave them here. I didn't want to do that. And I didn't want to travel to China with my kids. So I was like, I'll just stay home and let him go and do this. And he ended up coming back a world champion.
He's a world champion.
He's a world champion. And you can count on one hand the amount of Americans that have won the world championship in Shuaijiao in China.
Yeah. And
it's very impressive.
I used to be on the school board, and I used to call it one of the greatest, proudest moments whenever I could shake the hand of a state champion. Because even at that level, there's just not that many. And I know the work that it takes to go into it. And so the world champion and one of the few in China, I mean, that's cream of the crop. And so here's the question. That takes a lot of work. You don't get there just by showing up. That's not God-given ability. That's taking advantage of every ounce that you have and turning it, exponentially more. Mm-hmm. How do you balance that? How do you keep that personal drive going so that you can compete at that level while you're doing these entrepreneurial ventures and keeping things going?
Well, it's a very tight schedule. We have a routine. Like we wake up, and Daniel and I are such a good team. We've been a team for 25 years. We've worked together, we've lived together, we work out together, we do everything together. And we're a very good partnership. So in the mornings, we wake up together, we get the kids up, he makes breakfast, I pack their lunches, we get them on the bus, we get changed, we go to the gym. Straight from the gym, we go to our own class that we take with our instructor. And then from there, we have meetings, we, do podcasts, or we go to the restaurant and, we're there to close out a party or whatever we need to do at the restaurant. And then once the kids get off the bus, we give them their snack, and we either go our separate ways, where I will go to, do the sports with the kids and tutoring and whatnot. And then he'll go to the Kung Fu school. And then I'll put the kids to bed by myself, or we all load up in the car as a family and go to the Kung Fu school together. Yeah. We come home together, we get the kids dinner, put them to bed, and we do it all over the next day. Amazing. It's a very regimen. Yeah.
As you're explaining that, I talk a lot about work-life balance because it's very important. And sometimes I say to myself, there's really no such thing. You're either all in where you are or you're not. And, that's part of balance too. I got to be hard here, and you got to be hard here and keep it in line. It must be really hard. I have a family relationship similar to yours. My wife and I do everything together. We're constantly together, probably to her detriment more than mine. But it's got to be easier when you don't have to balance your role as a husband and as a father and as a business owner and as a whatever, when it's all one. And you talked about the way you run your business as a family. We do things the right way. That makes it easier to do it all, doesn't it? When you're doing things on purpose together?
It does. Yeah, it does. I mean, I give props to single moms, single dads. Man. Like I honestly don't know how they do it. Right. I could not do it. I mean, maybe I could. I've never been in that situation. You know what I mean? But I don't feel like I could do it without my husband's support. And I don't know how well he would do without my support. Or maybe I do know how well he would do, and it's
No, you
not
don't.
very good.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's very likely. So, tell me a little bit about the future. So, the restaurant is up and running, but restaurants aren't easy. I'd love to do a show just about how you run a restaurant someday. What kind of hurdles do you see moving forward? What kind of tricks are you going to try to kind of employ to keep things running really smooth and keep things going moving forward? What's next on the horizon for the Cliff family?
So, right now we're just focusing on these three businesses. There's no other businesses in the
That's
horizon
it.
that I know of.
Hmm.
But for Brooklyn Kung Fu, we're always focused on, growing our student base. Martial arts is similar to restaurants where it's just a revolving door.
Okay.
Nobody stays forever. They come, they train for a little bit, or they might even train to get their black belt. And then once they get their black belt, they're like, okay, I've done it, and they leave. So it's always a revolving door, always trying to build that student base and stay at that level where we're at. Um, our challenge there would be for me for time and trust. So I've built great relationships with a lot of local schools in the Brooklyn community that allow me to come in, distribute flyers, talk to the youth about what we do. But it's just a matter of training someone else to do what I do because I can't be everywhere at once all the time.
Hmm.
And then trusting that that person is going to be able to do what I do, how I do it. Right. And I've gone through multiple seminars and trainings on being a good leader. And I've heard that if you can train somebody to do what you do at 80% of effectiveness, like what you do it, that's good.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
I've been
good.
told.
You know,
So,
you're right. You're right. Let me give you a little feedback on that because I'm
yeah,
horrible at one thing. I expect every single person that works for me or with me to be a mini me. Now, my
yep,
wife will smack me in the head every time I say, this person didn't do. Brian, did you tell her to do it or him to do it? Did you show him or her how to do it? Did you watch how it was done? Because no one else is going to do it like you. And I
right.
get mad when it's not. So the advice I would give is that 20% will drive you nuts.
I know. I know.
It's true. You got to do it because there's no 100% mini me. You've got to deal with that
Yeah,
20%. If you can find an 80%, you're golden, but it'll still
right.
drive you crazy if you're anything like me.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like I am.
So that's yeah. So that's what you're trying
And
to
then,
work on. Have you had any luck yet with hiring anybody, or is this your first time kind of going through that?
well, I've been talking about this for a long time. We
Yeah.
have some really great instructors. And one of my instructors in particular always asks me for more. He's like, can I help you with anything? And I'm like, "Mhm."
But
Yeah,
not this, but
you
not this,
can.
and not this, and
Yeah,
not this.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And then kind of with the other businesses with Turo, I had mentioned we're planning on doubling our fleet by the end of this year.
Yeah.
So the challenge with that would be obviously to manage that growth efficiently and ensure consistent service and the quality of service that we try to provide. And then for Mateo's, it's really just about building on our initial momentum and becoming a true Olmsted Falls gem. We just launched a new menu a couple weeks ago and revamped the bar menu. I'm really working on beefing up our bourbon collection because I've heard bourbon is the new craft beer.
Yeah. At least. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with that and with monthly special events with like wine dinners and different live music and all of that. So we want to continue
Good.
enhancing the dining experience to become the place where neighbors gather and couples come to celebrate. And the challenge would be to build a successful restaurant that prioritizes community, even within a competitive market. So for us, it's not just about serving delicious food, it's about creating a positive impact in our community. We believe that putting people first, we build that thriving business that everyone can be proud of and
Yeah.
stand behind.
Yeah. And when things hit the wall a little bit, they can come up and help support and be a
Yeah.
community and a family together. That's tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, as we kind of come to a close, there's a lot of people, like I said, out there listening right now or watching that want to do something on their own. I know because I used to be that person, scared to death to try and to drop everything I've built, or whatever it might be. I can't encourage people enough to try and to live their dreams, but it's not as easy. And once the rearview mirror is pretty forgiving. right? It's taking that first step that's the hard part. So what would you say to someone listening now, who has entrepreneurial dreams, but also knows that the crap can hit the fan, and should they do what they want to do, what would you tell them?
They do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it. Yeah. I mean, if you have, if you stay with a job, part time, just in case, you're never going to go all in. You're always going to rely on that as, your fallback plan.
Yeah.
But if you just go all in, it's going to force you to make it work. You have to do it. Like, you have no backup plan. You don't have that part-time job anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you have to grind. You have to bust your butt every single day and figure it out
And when
until
things
it's successful.
do fall apart, you can always go drive Uber Eats until it
Right?
puts itself together. I mean, that's not a bad way to go. I remember when I was starting my
Yeah.
own company, I said, look, the worst case scenario is, because who's going to hire me for anything? The worst case scenario is, honey, I would say, I'll go sell screws at Home Depot and be really happy showing people
Yeah.
how to find what they need at the store. And if that's the worst case scenario,
Yeah.
then what else do we have to lose? And so
Right.
I think you're a testament of when things go really bad, it's never as bad as it could be, and you've got something to lean on and something to build and look forward to. So that's tremendous. Jessica, if people want to know more about you, or to reach out to Matteo's, or to reach out to Brooklyn Kung Fu, or to learn about Turu, or whatever it might be, how do they do all those things that you're doing?
Well, I will share my information with you.
Let's
So
do it.
you can find me on social media. My personal social media page is Jessica Marie Imerscliff. That's EIM, Imers. And then for Brooklyn Kung Fu, you can call or text us. It's 216-351-3222. And you can find us on social media at Brooklyn Kung Fu and online at kungfuacademywest.com.
Okay.
And then for Matteo's, you can call the restaurant. The number is 440-427-5400, and find us on socials at Matteo's Cleveland. And our website for Matteo's is matteoscleveland.com.
And for Turu, they just find, is it Turu?
Turo.
Turo. Why don't I know about this? Where have I been?
I don't know. I'll send you the links to our cars in case you ever need something.
I may. That's absolutely right. So thankful that you're on the show and sharing this information. And when we talked about being on the show, I didn't know you had all these other things going on. And I thought you'd be swamped just running the restaurant. And yet you're doing all these other things. And congratulations to your success. And I wish you so much more moving forward.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated you reaching out and asking me to be on the show. This was fun.
I'm glad you are. And we're going to talk next season or the season after that. I want to find out how you did with the mini-me hire, because I'm really interested in how that works. I want it to work for you.
I'm working on my daughter. I think if I want to get to that 80% or even more, she's going to be my person.
Yeah, because what daughter doesn't want to take direction from her mom? Exactly.
Right.
Good idea. No, just kidding. Well done, Jessica. And Jessica, thank you very much for being a guest on Purpose Under Pressure, and best of luck with the Matteo's and Brooklyn Kung Fu and Turu.
Thank you so much.
That's Jessica Cliff, folks, and I'm glad that she was a part of this show. I hope that she was motivational and helpful to you wherever you are. If you're trying to build something new, if you're trying to stick with something that you've already built, if you're just trying to feel good about the fact that you've got things together, again, having it working, success is in the eye of the beholder. When you're trying, when you're doing, when you're making it happen, man, what else can you ask for? Just get up and go, and don't let that pressure knock you down. So thank you very much, Jessica. She's my guest on Purpose Under Pressure, brought to you by Sandler by the Ruby Group. Sellers are under pressure to perform. Talk about hitting the hard wall on that. It's hard in sales. Sandler does help you to succeed on purpose. You'll find all past episodes of Purpose Under Pressure at bryanmediastrategies.com/podcast and wherever you stream your favorite shows. We do this every week, and we will see you next time on Purpose.